Hello, the Parham Academy. This is Mr. Suarez Mystery again, and welcome to today's assembly. Now, today's assembly will be on one of the strands that we were looking at when we were talking about the British values. So about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we did an assembly on British values, and every week since then, we've looked at each part of the British values. Now, today will be the 4th part. Now, can anyone remember what part of the British values we have looked at so far? Have a think. There was some really bad acting by me and Mr. Sharman on one of them. Okay, so the first British value we looked at was the rule of law. And then the second one we looked at was mutual respect and tolerance. And then the third one we looked at was individual liberty. Now, I'm just going to share my screen. I want you to think about what the last strand of British values that we need to look at are. Let's see if you can do it before I get there. Yeah, so you can see the word is up there already. So the last one is called democracy. Now, the aim of this assembly is to understand what democracy is and understand how people take part in democracy. So what do you know about democracy? Okay, if you're in a classroom, you might want to give your ideas to your teachers or your teacher assistants. If you're at home, you might want to give your ideas to your siblings, or you might have your parents or carers in the room. So what do you know about democracy? Now, I'm just going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm just going to show you a real quick video that might give you some more ideas, and it will also give you more information about democracy. Sorry. Got to turn the sound on. Let me try that again. Share sound. That's it.
The word democracy comes from the Greek words of demos, which means people, and kratos, which means power or rule. So democracy basically means the rule of the people. Democracy first started as a direct democracy in Greek cities, notably ancient Athens, where people came together to speak about their concerns and opinions in front of rulers of the city-state, and directly voted on new rules and laws. Here is considered as the birthplace of democracy. For the very first time, decisions were made by the people instead of rulers. But sadly, the ancient Greeks did not see all people equally. Slaves, women, children, and the people who did not have a land weren't allowed to vote. This is what we call a flawed democracy today. After the Greeks lost their power and influence in the 1st century AD, their early forms of democracy were also fading away until the Magna Carta was signed in 1215, which prevented the King of England to do whatever he wanted and said that even the king had to follow the country's rules and laws which were written in the Constitution. Today, most democracies are indirect or representative, which means that you can't vote for a new law yourself, but you can vote for people who then become lawmakers and present your interests. But democracy isn't just about voting. It's about everything to protect the best interests of the people, no matter what is their race, gender, political opinion, or religion. These interests can be human rights, quality of life, infrastructure, and many more. Modern democracies divide power into 3 different branches: the legislative, the people who make the law; the executive, the people who make sure that you obey the law; and the judiciary, who judge you if you commit a crime. These 3 are independent and work following the process, checks and balances, which means all the work must be clear and fair. And very important, the people who have power also must follow the law and not exceed their authority. In addition, a democratic government must work in a way that reflects the wish, feeling, desire, and values of the society that it governs. This is also known as the general will, which is a concept developed by the famous Swiss philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. One of the problems of democratic voting is that the biggest groups of people always have the most power, and that's why a good democracy also has laws to protect the rights of its smaller and weaker groups. A democracy where the majority chooses to separate, expel, or injure its minority is not a functioning democracy. So, what do you think now about democracy? Winston Churchill once said, "Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time." Do you agree?
Okay, I'm just going to go back to the other screen now. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video. Okay, so we have a political system that is called a democracy. Okay. A democracy means rule by the people. It comes from the Greek word demos, which means people, and kratos, which means rule of strength. And as you saw in the video, democracy was created or developed in Greece in about 507 BC, which is a very, very long time ago. Okay. So ruled by the people, what do you think this means? What do you think ruled by the people means? Do we get to decide on the rules? Now, what does democracy mean? Okay, so in the United Kingdom, we hold an election to choose someone to represent us. Most candidates who stand for election belong to a political party, a group of people who share similar beliefs. Together, people who belong to the party agree on changes that they will make if they are elected. And these are called policies. The leaders of the political parties share their main policies with members of the public. So we are the members of the public. And we get a chance to vote, okay, for these political parties so they can govern our country. Now, does anyone know what the 6 main political parties are in the United Kingdom or in England? What are the 6 main political parties? Now, a lot of these political parties are represented by a certain colour or maybe 2 colours put together. So when the rosettes come up, these may give you an idea. Are they, can you recognise any of them? Can you recognise the symbols that are in the middle of those rosettes? Some of the adults in the room may be able to help you. So if you look at this one up here, the green one, that's the Green Party, okay? And they mainly look at the environment, okay, and how our policies link to the environment and so that we can make it a safe place, okay? We've got this one here, which is Plaid Cymru. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that correctly, but they are a Welsh party, so they represent the Welsh, the residents of Wales, okay, putting forward their kind of policies. And then this one up here, that is the SNP, the Scottish National Party. So they look at the policies that are to do with Scotland, okay. And then you've got the 3 bigger parties, which go for Wales, England, Northern Ireland, and Scotland. So this yellow one here is the Liberal Democrats, okay. The red one here is called Labour, and the blue one here are the Conservatives. Now, so each main political party has a leader. So we're going to look at the 4 biggest parties, okay, and look at who their leaders are. So I'm going to show you some pictures. So looking at those pictures, Do you know the names of any of the people that you can see? Do you know the names of any of these people that you can see? If any of you get it right, you can have 20 house points for each person you get right. That includes the adults. Okay, let's start from this side. So this person is called Ed Davey, and he is the leader of the Liberal Democrats. This lady here is called Nicola Sturgeon. She's the leader of the SNP, the Scottish National Party. This person here is Sir Keir Starmer, and he is the leader of the Labour Party. And this person here is Boris Johnson, and he's the leader of the Conservatives. Okay, and do you know which one of these is the Prime Minister? So which party is actually in charge of making policies in our country at the minute? Which one? If you don't know, you can have a guess. Who do you think it is? Boris Johnson, Keir Starmer, Nicola Sturgeon, or Ed Davey? Which one do you think is the Prime Minister? That's right, it's Boris Johnson. So how is a political party elected? So every citizen should listen to the policies of the different parties and candidates, and they should decide on who to vote for. Okay. Now, there are some rules. Now, people must be 18 or over to take part in an election. So if you're 18 years old or over 18 years old, you are allowed to vote for a political party to represent you in an election and for them to be elected, okay, to govern our country. So unfortunately, you're in primary school at the minute, so you will have to wait a little bit of time to take part in an election. Now, each person votes for the candidate of his or her choice. They do this by putting a cross beside the person's name on the ballot paper. Now you can see on there, they've got a Labour person, there's a Green Party, Liberal Democrats, Conservatives, and there's another party called UKIP as well. Okay, and then when you go out to vote, you'd put an X in one of the boxes that you want to vote for. You can't put two, you can only choose one. And then at the end of the election day, the votes are added up. So the candidate with the highest number of votes, okay, the majority is declared the winner. Okay, so someone has a special job, counts the votes, counts these ballot papers, okay, and then the person with the most votes is the winner. Okay, and in every democracy, in our democracy, every citizen has certain basic rights. Okay, so no one can tell you what you must think, believe, or not say. Everyone is free to choose their own religion and to worship and practice their religion as they want to. Every individual has the right to enjoy their own culture along with other members of their group, even if their group is a minority. Okay. However, everyone must exercise these rights peacefully with respect for the law and the rights of others. Okay, so we live in a democracy. Okay, so we must respect everyone's opinions and cultures, and we must be tolerant. Okay, so we talked about those things in the other assemblies. Okay, so the rule of law we talked about mutual respect and tolerance, and we talked about individual liberty as well. Okay. Now, how might you have a democracy in your school? So in our school, all the pupils are involved in the school council. Now we have a different name for the school council. What do you remember what it is? What was the other name for the school council? I bet loads of you got your hands up now, shouting out. Yeah, that was right. It's called the Palmer Parliament. Now we had an election before Christmas, and people were elected for each year group to represent that year group. And those children will come together, and it's pupil-led. Okay. It's pupil-led. The staff and children believe that it plays an important role and it deals with significant issues. So in our school, Miss Staples, she is the teacher that leads that particular pupil leadership in the school. Okay, and the Parliament is a very, very important part of your Parma life. Okay, and if you are part of the Parliament, fantastic, well done if you got elected. Okay. Because remember, being involved in democracy makes a difference. Okay, so if you are involved in the Parliament, you're making a difference. Okay. So I'm just going to stop the screen. Now, I hope that was interesting, and I hope that you've learned what a democracy is. And if you knew what a democracy was, I hope that this is just giving you more information. Okay. So they are all the British values that we've covered. Now, each assembly will be linked to a British value. Okay, so the next one that we do, you'll probably hear me saying or talking about how this assembly links to another British value. Okay, I hope everyone is feeling safe. Okay, and I hope that you're all happy. Okay, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.